What's up traders, welcome to Failure to Displace. In this video we're taking a look at this morning's London session where I recorded both Macro 1 and Macro 2 in live time, giving my thoughts through both the pound and the euro. I took one break-even trade on the pound this morning in Macro number 1, no trades on the euro. We can see the pound has reversed lovely, however no entry here. So we'll go through live price action now as I tape read through this, showing the entry, the execution and why we didn't take anything in Macro number 2. Let's jump into the analysis now. So I'm just doing the analysis for the morning to see if there's any interest or any reason for me to be at the charts, and it's looking like today will be a no trade day. We have decoupled US dollar from the euro and the pound, so things are not acting like they should. We know that tomorrow we have non-farm employment. So non-farm Fridays, ICT does say that once we pass Wednesday we should be off the charts because Wednesday and Thursday generally build liquidity, ready for a liquidity sweep on Friday, and so the move will probably happen today. So anything that we see today is probably going to be inducement for a larger trade tomorrow. What we're seeing is that the Dixie taken yesterday's, well, this is yesterday's low. I've got an inverted chart. The euro has failed, so we do have bearish SMT at this point. So it's bearish SMT on the hourly as well. You can see it more clearly in that we have not taken this high on the euro, but we have taken it on the Dixie. So under normal market conditions we would expect the euro and the Dixie to be moving in the same direction when we're using an inverted chart like this. The euro is not. Also, just to clarify, the pound is the same as the euro, so the pound and the euro are following the same pattern. The Dixie has taken the high, the pound has failed to, so this is bearish SMT both on the euro and the pound. When we drop to the 15, we've actually got bullish SMT on the 15, so this is where it gets quite confusing. The euro has taken this swing low here, so this swing low down to there has been taken on the euro. I'm not threatening it here, so we're showing a lot more strength at the moment. The willingness of the Dixie to go higher in comparison to the euro is how I'm reading this. On a higher time frame the Dixie's already taken the high, and then on a lower time frame it's creating bullish SMT here for the euro, saying that euro may go higher. So it's kind of conflicting information is what I'm getting at, which means that I'm not confident in taking a trade because everything isn't aligned as I would like. The pound is not. So the pound is following the same pattern as the dollar at the moment. So based on this, the euro is lagging behind. So I'm not confident. Essentially what I've marked out here is I've marked out a 15-minute fair value gap on the euro, which we're just tapping prior to the session opening. We do have 15-minute relative equal lows. A couple of lows here. We do have the daily low down here as well, and a larger 15-minute fair value gap. We can see yesterday's price action very bullish all day yesterday, so unfortunately there was nowhere for me to get in the London session to ride this higher, and we just had a continuation through New York, so there was no entries. We've since New York AM session have consolidated. We could potentially be looking for a continuation higher. We do have this swing high here, which takes us into a premium of this higher time frame range. So we could come into a premium here, sweeping this liquidity, and then looking to continue this bearish move. So we have just broken structure here on the daily. So this could be a sign that we are coming up. We've broken structure. We're coming for a pullback, and then a continuation to come and take some lows out. This would continue this higher time frame bearish move that we've been having. But to switch higher time frame, I would want a deeper pullback, at least into a discount of this price leg before I start considering that on the daily. So today I'm kind of bullish up to this swing high here. I'm just concerned that the markets don't seem to be coupled, and obviously we've got NFP tomorrow, which is going to mess things up. Well, not mess things up, could make things difficult today, because we're just essentially consolidating to build liquidity ready for a massive move tomorrow. So just checking on the pound, obviously we have this larger range. This is from the Asia low up to the current London high. We're just tapping the equilibrium of that range, so 50%. Optimal trade entry is just sweeping this liquidity, so this 15-minute swing low, into optimal trade, which is a large order block. This large down closed candle is an order block. Inside the order block we do have a fair value gap that was created as well. We may find resistance around optimal trade entry on the pound. That's just so we know that this low correlates to this low here. So this is just showing the weakness in the euro at the minute. Close below 50% of that fair value gap. It was mitigated once, so we did trade through this initially on this run up. I just like to just monitor just to see if they do cause any reaction. Moving forward, it looks like it's irrelevant, so we'll get rid of that. So the eyes are really on this swing low here. It's just taking this 5-minute swing low. Not taking any liquidity on the Dixie. Interestingly, this is the New York PM session macro, which again I often say is a magnet price. Macros are, well, specifically the London macros are drawn to the New York PM session previous macros. We often find them making their way back down to those levels, at least retesting or sweeping the liquidity before moving off in any particular direction. So we're into the macro now, so these dotted lines are showing us the macro level. You can see they're acting very differently. Pound is following the Dixie's price action quite closely, which is what we expect. The euro seems to be completely decoupled, doing its own thing completely this morning. I'm just looking if we get a pullback into optimal trade entry, fair value gap. This kind of mitigation block here. I'm thinking that the pound may drop lower, sweep out these relative equal lows, coming down for this order block, having already swept Asia highs. Dixie has obviously already taken the previous day, so we may get a larger pullback on the Dixie. We've got a fair value gap here. On the pound, we've just come into optimal trade entry and into that mitigation block fair value gap area. So this is a discount area for a reversal. So looking at the pound here, not the euro. I'm monitoring the euro on the other screen. It's not doing anything at the minute, it's just consolidating above the Asia low. A little bit of SMT here with the Dixie. Dixie took this previous candle's high, whereas the euro didn't. Dixie can close over the fair value gap, and the euro and the pound closes over the fair value gap, and that may be something to trade with. It's not the candle we were looking for. The euro's just making a run for the Asia low, and that's the Asia low that we've just taken on the euro. New York PM session low is this green line, and then the previous macro low here as well. You can see again SMT just locally on the 1 minute chart, with the euro making new lows, the Dixie failing to make new lows, and we have just swept a level of liquidity, or just tapped a level of liquidity at least on the euro. Nice ramped volume coming down. This is good low resistance liquidity here. Pound is getting a decent-ish close here. We do have SMT at that point as well. I'll take a short on the pound. No, I'm not. Taking a short on the pound here, based on closure over that fair value gap. Low hanging fruit is going to be this swing low, so it's not far into that fair value gap. Expecting the Asia low to get taken, expecting these relative equal lows to get taken. We had SMT here, so the pound came up into these highs, whereas the dollar was unable to. Slightly risky trade, I guess, because everything is decoupled, as we mentioned. We did hit a premium. Closed over this fair value gap with a decent-ish sized candle. And we can see that Dixie is trying. And so far this morning, the pound has been following the Dixie. This is bullish SMT, so I may get out of this break even here. That has not moved off like the Dixie has. An inversion fair value gap here, which is what we're basing the trade on, because we have closed over it, and then we have a normal bearish fair value gap as well. So I have gone break even, swept this low into this fair value gap. If it's going to go, we expect it to run now equal lows into this order block. And that's break even. Been tapped out with the spread, so I'm break even on that now. It never got to 1R. I was very quick to get to break even on this, given the fact that we did have this larger fair value gap. It wasn't a massive displacement candle that closed over the IFVG either, and obviously we've got this decoupling between the assets. Bullish SMT as the Dixie was taking this low. So now we've got euro has passed the New York PM session low and the New York PM session macro. We've swept Asia low as well. Lovely liquidity down here, so we are creating SMT with the Dixie. Be nice if the Dixie could take this liquidity here, for us. So at least it's swept some liquidity for a reversal. So our pound trade hasn't hit the stop loss yet. Obviously we got stopped out break even, but the original stop loss is still intact. But we can see that we are in a consolidation on the Dixie. So I do believe it was a good call to get out of that trade. There was 2 points where I would have gone break even. First one tapping the order block with bullish SMT, which is where we originally got stopped out. And then the second one when we swept that low and then failed to displace through the low, pulling back, I'd have got stopped out there as well. So this is just a consolidation range. What I'm really looking for is the Dixie to sweep this liquidity before any potential reversals. Anyway, break even on this one. I'm not trading silver bullet, got stuff to do. I will come back for macro number 2. I'm not hopeful that there'll be anything exciting in macro number 2. So I don't like the way the markets are trading at the moment. Hopefully after NFP tomorrow we can get some clarity, a bit more direction, get out of this horrible range that we've been in on the dollar, which is just screwing up everything at the minute. So here we are back into macro 2, just missed the start by a couple of minutes. We can see that we did sweep the low eventually on the Dixie. Let's drop to the 5 minute. So we were expecting this low to be swept, which is why we weren't jumping into any long positions on the euro. The low was swept into the silver bullet hour, and then price did reverse nicely. After that, there was no entry, based on my entry model at least, in this area, so I wouldn't have taken a long here because we didn't have an engulfing candle to show that we were going higher. This does make me believe that we may still continue lower during the day. The Dixie has pulled back up to optimal trade entry. It's tapped our breaker block, which we highlighted earlier, and has then since rejected. Euro, we haven't got back into a discount yet, I don't believe. We've maybe just touched 50% of the range. Again, I'm not panicking, rushing into any trades today due to NFP tomorrow. So just read this. Yeah, it's come up, just tapped optimal trade entry. Coming into the macro. So both Dixie and Euro are in an area of interest. The pound, ultimately it didn't reach its target. So if we look at the pound, we would have been stopped out if we hadn't gone break even. We did sweep that low, so irrelevant of what had happened, you would have gone break even after you'd taken that session low. So it would have been a break even trade no matter which point you took the stop loss to break even, but we never hit the 2R. Price is dropping very aggressively now. So obviously we've got the macro high, and then we have this high of the breaker, which if the Dixies takes this, where the euro fails, and we could have SMT at the high if we leave fair value gap here. The Dixie's taken the high. We've got a fair value gap here, potentially a fair value gap here. So if we've got a reversal here, this would be SMT. And we can look to run this maybe lower. If the euro takes that high, then that cancels that out. You can see the pound swept the lows that we were looking for as our take profit on that first trade, and then reversed nicely, just above hitting this 15-minute fair value gap that we marked. Obviously there was SMT because the pound was making new lows, whereas the Dixie was failing to make new lows. There was no SMT at the bottom, I don't think, and there was no engulfing candle over a fair value gap. The closure was there. So we had Dixie sweeping the high. Euro has just swept that high now. Into optimal trade. Dixie's into the breaker block that we highlighted. And we're coming up to the last minute of the macro now anyway, so there's no trade there. So unfortunately, just one break-even trade this morning on the pound. Nothing set up in the second macro for us. Potential entry on the pound here, but the pound had swept this internal liquidity into this order block. I think this was a 15-minute order block, was it? Yeah. Come down into a 15-minute order block, 15-minute fair value gap. We had SMT with the Dixie, so the Dixie was making a higher low, whereas we were making a lower low on the pound. We did have SMT at that point, and then as a small SMT, let's have a look here. I'm putting a low, lower high. There's no real SMT there. So it wasn't an entry, there was no engulfing candle. Again, if this was one large candle instead of spread out over three, then I would have likely have taken that. Or if we could have had a large candle here, then I would have been more interested in this. But because they were such small candles, the momentum looked to be to the downside with the larger candle here. So there was no indication for me to get long at that area, so I didn't take a long on the pound. And then on the euro, obviously, there was nothing here. We didn't come into a discount, so we just tapped 50% before we rejected. I would have potentially looked for longs if we'd have come down into the optimal trade entry balanced price range. We didn't come down far enough. And for a short, there was no reaction anyway. I was looking at this inversion fair value gap and obviously the order block here on the Dixie for any sign. We might be able to go lower. Unfortunately, it didn't play out. So the only trade was our break-even short trade on the pound from macro number 1. Tricky week this week. Again, NFP. So you kind of expect it. Powell testifying today, yesterday, and then NFP due as well. It's kind of you expect it to be a tricky week. Which is why I'm not rushing into any crazy trades. I hope the analysis was useful. That was live time, so just a breakdown as I was seeing price in real time during the session. If you did like the video, please leave it a thumbs up. Any questions, comments, or feedback, leave them down below. It'd be great to hear from you. If you enjoy this kind of content and want to see how I'm trading the London session, then please do consider subscribing. I do drop videos like this every single trading day. Thanks for watching. I'll see you again in the next video.